My mother blocked the front door, her arms crossed tightly. "Your sister has a brunch date with her friends," she said, her voice dripping with absolute finality. "You are staying here and watching her kids." I felt cold sweat bead on my forehead as I looked at the clock. The final interview that could change my life, a corporate VP role I had sacrificed sleep for over 3 years to achieve, started in exactly 45 minutes. My dad laughed from the couch, not even looking up from his paper. "Girls like you don't get lives, sweetie. You get duties." Right then, my sister dropped a heavy, overstuffed diaper bag right at my feet, smiling like she'd already won. I didn't say a word. I just looked at them, stepped clean over the bag, walked right out through the back door, and never came back home. But that was 7 years ago. My name is Margaret, and I am 26 years old. To truly understand why I walked out of my family's house that morning and never looked back, you have to understand the toxic world I grew up in. In our home, there were 2 completely different sets of rules. One set was for my sister Vanessa, the undisputed golden child of the family. The other set was for me, the invisible daughter. Vanessa was older by 2 years, but she was treated like a fragile piece of glass that would shatter if she ever had to face the real world. She got the car, the paid tuition, the designer clothes, and the endless praise for simply breathing. I, on the other hand, was viewed strictly as unpaid domestic labor and emotional support. If Vanessa was stressed, it was my job to fix it. If the house was dirty, it was my fault. My parents made it explicitly clear that my only value lay in how well I served my sister's needs. But while they were busy catering to Vanessa's every whim, I was quietly building my escape strategy. I knew nobody was coming to save me, so I saved myself. I took a low-level data entry job, studied late into the night until my eyes burned, and worked 80-hour weeks to build a flawless corporate resume. I kept my career ambitions a complete secret, hiding my promotions and savings accounts because I knew, with absolute certainty, that my family would try to sabotage anything that threatened to take me away from my duties. I lived like a ghost in my own home, waiting for the perfect opportunity to break free. And finally, after years of silent grinding, that opportunity arrived in the form of a life-changing corporate VP interview. That life-changing corporate VP interview was supposed to happen in a quiet room upstairs, away from the chaos. I had prepared for weeks, memorizing case studies and perfecting my presentation, but my family had other plans. The morning of the interview, the front door rattled open, and Vanessa marched into the house, completely disregarding the fact that it was barely 8 a.m. My mother immediately stepped into the hallway, blocking the front exit with her arms crossed defensively. Vanessa stood behind her, adjusting her expensive sunglasses, acting as if her weekend social calendar was a matter of national security. When I explained that this interview could literally launch my career and allow me to finally move out, my father just sneered from his chair, tossing his newspaper aside. "Girls like you don't get lives, sweetie. You get duties," he said, his voice echoing with absolute contempt. That single sentence stripped away any remaining guilt I had left. It was the ultimate psychological breaking point. Vanessa smiled triumphantly and dropped her heavy, overstuffed diaper bag right at my feet, expecting me to pick it up, submit, and cancel my call. But something inside me snapped. I looked down at the bag, then up at their cold, expectant faces. Without saying a single word, I took a deep breath, stepped clean over the diaper bag, and walked straight down the hallway toward the back of the house. I slipped out through the back door into the morning air, driving straight to a quiet coffee shop 2 miles away. I took the final interview from my laptop in a corner booth, pouring every ounce of my rage and ambition into my answers. By that afternoon, I blocked all their numbers. I never went back. Taking that interview in the corner booth of a noisy coffee shop was the best thing that ever happened to me. I completely crushed it. The hiring board didn't see a terrified girl escaping a toxic household. They saw a hyper-focused, ambitious professional who was ready to lead. Within 48 hours, I had the official offer letter in my inbox, complete with a six-figure starting salary and a relocation package that allowed me to move halfway across the country. I packed my entire life into 3 suitcases, boarded a flight to Chicago, and started completely fresh. Over the next 6 years, I poured every waking hour into my career. I became a force in the tech consulting industry, consistently breaking performance records and outworking everyone around me. By year 4, I was promoted to Senior Vice President. By year 6, I made the boldest move of my life. I parted ways with the corporate world and launched my own independent tech consulting firm. Through standard operations and sheer grit, my business took off immediately, securing major enterprise contracts within our first 8 months. But while my bank account and professional reputation grew exponentially, my family remained completely in the dark. From the exact moment I shut that back door, I maintained a total digital blackout. I locked down all my personal social media accounts, changed my phone number 3 times, and ignored the occasional desperate email that slipped into my spam folder. They had absolutely no idea that the invisible daughter they tried to turn into a permanent babysitter was now a highly wealthy CEO, completely out of their reach. But while my life was ascending to heights I had only ever dreamed of, the fragile reality my parents built for Vanessa was completely collapsing. For nearly 3 decades, Vanessa had been taught that her beauty, entitlement, and status as the golden child would shield her from the harsh consequences of the real world. She never learned the value of accountability, discipline, or hard work. Shortly after I left, she married a wealthy man who indulged her reckless, high-end spending habits for a few years. But as her entitlement grew into absolute financial carelessness, the marriage completely deteriorated. Her husband finally filed for a bitter divorce, leaving Vanessa completely broke with 0 assets, heavy credit card debt, and no real-world qualifications. She had a generic college degree that she had never used, and her resume was completely blank. With nowhere else to turn, she packed up her things and moved back in with our aging parents. But my parents couldn't protect her anymore. Their own retirement savings were rapidly drying up from years of funding Vanessa's lavish lifestyle. The household was drowning in stress and unpaid bills. Desperate for any income to maintain her lifestyle, Vanessa began blindly applying for high-paying administrative positions on corporate job boards. One evening, an algorithmic job match flagged a premium administrative role at a rapidly growing tech consulting firm in the city. The salary was twice what standard entry-level jobs offered. Blinded by the dollar signs and completely desperate for a financial life raft, Vanessa hit submit on her application, entirely unaware of the name on the business license or who actually owned the company. The morning of the interviews arrived, and Vanessa walked into our corporate headquarters looking exactly like her usual entitled self. She carried herself with a familiar air of arrogance, wearing a designer outfit that she clearly couldn't afford, completely oblivious to the fact that her future depended on the people inside this building. She settled into one of our custom leather chairs in the reception lobby, scrolling through her phone and sighing loudly, completely unaware that her entire application packet had been sitting on my desk for the past 48 hours. I watched her through the one-way glass of my office suite for a few minutes before deciding it was time. I smoothed down my tailored blazer, opened the heavy double doors, and stepped directly into the main lobby area. When Vanessa looked up, and her eyes locked onto mine, the color completely drained from her face. She practically choked on her coffee, her jaw dropping in absolute paralyzed shock as she recognized me. But within seconds, her shock twisted back into her trademark entitlement. Assuming I was just a low-level secretary or a receptionist working the front desk, she stood up, crossed her arms defensively, and looked down her nose at me. "Margaret, what on earth are you doing working here?" she demanded, her voice dripping with the same patronizing tone from 7 years ago. Before I could even answer, She stepped closer and lowered her voice, completely exposing her unchanged nature. Listen, I am in a really desperate situation right now. Since you have a little job here, you need to go to the hiring manager right now and tell them to give me this position. We're family, Margaret. You owe me this. I didn't say a single word to her in the lobby. I simply turned around, walked down the executive hallway, and entered the main boardroom, leaving her standing there in a state of confused anger. A few minutes later, my HR director called her in. When Vanessa pushed open the heavy oak doors, expecting to see a standard hiring manager, she froze at the threshold. The room was massive, flanked by floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. And sitting right at the head of the polished mahogany conference table, completely alone, was me. The realization hit her like a physical blow, and the smug entitlement she had worn just moments ago completely vanished. She looked at the corporate branding on the wall, then back at me, finally connecting the dots. "Welcome to my firm, Vanessa," I said, my voice completely calm, professional, and entirely devoid of the anger I used to carry. She stood there trembling, clutching her portfolio to her chest as the massive power dynamic shift settled into the room. For the first time in her entire life, the golden child was completely at the mercy of the invisible daughter. I leaned forward, looking directly into her eyes, and addressed the massive elephant in the room. I pointed out the ultimate irony of her standing in my building, begging the exact sister she had tried to destroy for a financial life raft. Vanessa actually started to cry, whispering an apology that was 7 years too late. I didn't care about her tears, but I cared about business. I told her I would offer her the entry-level administrative position on one strict condition. She would be treated exactly like everyone else, with zero family favors, zero entitlement, and absolute accountability. Vanessa accepted the job out of absolute desperation. She simply had no other choice. The transition into her new reality was immediate, and the daily routine at the office provided a deeply satisfying taste of pure accountability. Every single morning, the former golden child had to arrive at the office early, manage my calendar, organize my files, and fetch critical documents for my executive meetings. There were no designer dresses, no casual brunches, and no parents standing by to shield her from a hard day's work. She had to report directly to me, sitting across from the desk of the sister she had once tried to turn into a permanent unpaid babysitter. She was finally learning what the real world actually felt like. Naturally, it didn't take long for our parents to find out what was happening, and their frantic backlash was entirely predictable. My phone rang from an unknown number one evening, and when I answered, my mother was practically screaming through the receiver. She and my dad demanded that I stop humiliating Vanessa, step down as CEO, and make her an equal partner in my firm. I let out a calm, cold laugh that instantly cut her off. I reminded them of that morning 7 years ago, quoting my father's exact words back to them. I told her, "Girls like Vanessa don't get favors, Mom. They get duties." I hung up the phone and blocked them for good. Breaking free from that toxic family dynamic was the hardest thing I ever did, but it saved my life. What would you have done if your family tried to block your life-changing day? Let me know in the comments below.